Welcome to Orbit Deniers. If you have a problem with the sunlight coming in, it's a good Star Trek effect, and hey, I kind of like the sun. Now, the reason I do this website and are promoting our film project, which is Orbit Deniers, is we want to promote the true climate science. That climate science is the Earth's orbit controls its climate. The Earth is on a 100,000 year elliptical orbit. During that orbit, we go from 94.5 to 91.4 million miles from the Sun. When we are farther from the Sun, we have ice ages. When we're warmer from the Sun, we have what's called glacier minimums. In addition, the Earth tilts. The Earth tilt is on a 41-year cycle. When we're tilted farther from the Sun, the northern hemisphere gets much colder. It has more glaciers. When we are more upright, the northern hemisphere tends to be glacier free. That's why we have ice ages and warm ages. Over the last 2 million years, we've had 20 glacier maximums and minimums. You would know them as ice ages and warm ages. This glacier minimum that we're currently in started more than 20,000 years ago. That's right, the glacier started 20,000 years before man made global warming. Why don't you ever hear that? Because you can't guilt trip the Earth's orbit or its axis or tilt into donating money to you. You can guilt trip human beings, corporations, into giving you money. How? You have to find something they do that you can guilt trip them into giving you money for. Man-made CO2 is the guilt trip that is proven to be most effective. But let's look at what man-made CO2 really does. Plants breathe in CO2 and they breathe out oxygen. We breathe in oxygen and eat plants and breathe out CO2. So every single human being breathes out CO2. The, the Democrats and the Green Movement want to convince you that man-made CO2 is a poison. And, if we stick a bag over your head, you'll eventually breathe up all the oxygen, breathe out CO2, and yeah, you'll be in trouble. But the truth of the matter is this: the Earth needs CO2, or we need CO2 in order to survive on this planet. The Earth will be perfectly fine without us. But one thing they don't tell you is when the dinosaurs were alive, the Earth had 12 times as much CO2, was 13 degrees warmer, and there were plants everywhere. The North Pole had the same climate as Florida. It had tropical rainforest in the Arctic Circle. That's why there's oil there now, is because it used to be a tropical paradise. The dinosaurs were able to live, thrive, and survive with 12 times the amount of CO2 in the atmosphere and 13-degree warmer planet Earth. If the dinosaurs can live through 12 times as much CO2 and a 13 degrees warmer planet, we can too. The other thing they don't tell you about ocean rising: the ocean's been rising for 20,000 years. Ever since the glacier minimum started, again, the oceans have been rising. In a few thousand years, the Earth will get as close as it does in its orbit to the Sun. When that happens, the northern hemisphere will be glacier free again. It's called a glacier minimum. The environmentalists don't talk about glacier minimums and glacier maximums because it blows the theory of their guilt trip. But what has happened in past glacier minimums, 20 of them in the last 2 million years to be exact, is ocean levels have risen. New York, Florida, London have all been underwater. Then the Earth begins to move farther from the Sun. The tilt changes a little bit. The ice ages come back, the oceans fall, the glaciers return, the northern hemisphere locks up a lot of the Earth's water in glaciers. New York will be out of the water. London, Florida will be out of the water. And then eventually the oceans will fall so much that you can walk to Manhattan from Queens because the water level will just be that low. In New York, Minneapolis, Moscow will all be under hundreds of meters of ice again. And then, in about another 80,000 years, the Earth will get close enough to the sun again to where the glaciers melt, the oceans rise, and the coast goes underwater again. The coast will continue to move back as long as the Earth gets closer to the sun. And when the Earth moves farther from the sun, more water will get caught up in glaciers and the oceans will retreat. It's happened 20 times before man-made global warming. This is the 21st time. That's why man-made global warming has nothing to do with it. It is strictly a guilt trip for money and power. Remember, back in the old days, you used to have witch doctors. They would, you give them money, you'd give them a virgin, you let them kill a goat. By the way, the witch doctor always ate the goat and the chicken that he killed. But if you wanted it to rain, you let him kill a chicken. If you wanted to stop rain, you let him kill a goat. Guess what? The witch doctor ate, and sooner or later the weather changed. The environmentalists are a lot like witch doctors. I think we should just go out, kill a goat, be done with this, because the truth of the matter is this: the Earth's climate is controlled by its orbit. It's called the Milankovitch cycle. This scientist did all the math on this between World War I and World War II, and it lays out, it explains the last 20 glacier maximums and the last 20 glacier minimums, and why the glaciers started melting about 20,000 years ago, and why the northern hemisphere is going to be glacier free, and the oceans will slowly rise and then they will slowly fall based upon how close we are to the sun and how the Earth is tilted or faces the sun. That is what drives our climate. And CO2 is a good thing. It's what plants need to live. It is highly believed that man-made CO2 has increased crop yields and vegetation on Earth by up to 40%. The environmentalists, if they succeed in eliminating man-made CO2, will help degreen Earth. The Earth is so green because we burn oil, because we burn natural gas. And it's amazing that the people who claim the most about the planet are lying the most about the planet. I will tell you that I care more about Earth than the average environmentalist, because I care enough to find out what the truth is and to tell other people what the truth is. You're watching Tim Anderson. This is OrbitDenier.com. And please help donate to us, like this, share this, tell everyone about it. And also we have a GoFundMe page where we are raising donations to make a film to tell the world that the Earth's orbit controls its climate. Look up the Milankovitch cycle. It's very important. And the reason you never hear it from an environmentalist is it completely blows their guilt trip out of the water. Once again, thank you for watching. Whether you love me, whether you hate what I just said, whether you love what I just said, please share it with everybody. And we're going to come back later and talk about how AOC is using the environment to advance her socialist goals, and it has nothing to do with actual Earth's climate science. The orbit controls our climate. The orbit of Mars controls its climate. The orbit of Venus controls its climate. The orbit of Earth controls its climate, just like every other planet in the universe. The temperature on Mars is controlled by its distance and axis to the sun. The Earth's climate is controlled by its distance and axis to the sun, which is on the Earth's orbit is on a 100,000 year cycle. The reason you've never heard that before is there's no money in telling you that. You can't guilt trip somebody into giving you money because of the Earth's orbit. You can guilt trip an oil company or a car company or somebody into giving you money to save the planet. Save the planet from its orbit? Yeah, that's a harder fundraising ask. I'm Tim. This is OrbitDenier.com. Thank you.